That's one. Richard? Nice change.
Hey, we're live. Whenever you're ready.
We'll let these guys get in here. It's 1 o'clock. Warm in here. It could get there. Okay, it's 1 o'clock. I'm going to call the December 20th Board of Commissioner meeting to order. Before we get started, I want to thank Nick Lusher and his team, along with Nancy Rich and John Zhang. As everybody can tell, our meeting room here is a little nicer than it was last time. They put a lot of effort into making all that happen. I'd also like to thank Jody and administration and Nathan for their efforts getting this all pulled together. Everybody was wondering if we were going to have a meeting with no carpet in here, and we were able to get that pulled together. So everything was nice. So wanted to thank them for that. At this time, we're going to have the prayer from Commissioner Heberlein and pledge by myself.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity and time and the freedom to come together as elected officials and different people throughout our community to serve our county and our community. We thank you, Lord, as we move forward with our agenda today for those that have spent many years in our county and serving our county and our community. We ask, Lord, that you would bless their lives as they retire and move on. And also we ask today, as we go through our agenda and we appoint people and make decisions on behalf of the county, we ask for your guidance and direction. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I was sitting down too.
Thank you, everyone. Leslie, roll call, please.
District 1 Chairman John Block,
Present.
District 2 Commissioner Gary Heberlein,
Present.
District 3 Commissioner Bill Sarkella,
Here.
District 4 Commissioner Roger Ballard,
Here.
District 5 Commissioner Joel Wyatt.
Thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.
If there are no corrections or deletions to today's agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adopt today's agenda.
So moved.
Support. We have a motion from Commissioner Ballard, support from Commissioner Wyatt. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. At this time, if there are no corrections to our meeting minutes from December 6th, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Heberlein. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. You're to receive your correspondence from Jody the other day. This will take us into a discussion item, and the discussion is related to the modification and addition of airspace at the Alpena Special Use Airspace Complex. Have any of you been approached or had any discussion about this particular?
Been approached about it. They're lowering the ceiling for the Warhawks and
Yeah, so
Warhawk. But I think it's been done already. Wasn't there a deadline on that?
no, so there was a public comment period that was supposed to end December 14th. The Air National Guard has extended that public comment period until January 14th.
No.
And there may be the possibility of that being extended further. So this affects mainly the northern section of Sanilac County, which would be my district and Rogers district, and it currently affects Bill's district as well. So I reached out to the Air National Guard and got a response, and they're actually going to be sending Brigadier General Taft, who is the commander for the entire Air National Guard in the state of Michigan, and his team is coming to have a meeting with myself, Bill, and Roger on January 3rd. So we're going to gain a little more information related to this potential change. But I had some constituents that were concerned about higher noise levels, jets flying lower to the ground, flares, things of that nature that could, affect water quality or property. So we're trying to get a little bit more information related to that. It's just something that I wanted to make this board and the new coming commissioners that are here today to be part of this meeting, to be aware that this is something that will be getting discussed early next year and that we may take a position on this issue as a county. So Does anybody have any discussion they'd like to have about the issue?
They did send out a summary. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it.
Yeah.
Summary of 110 pages. Maybe we can have it read by January 3rd.
Yeah, it's a little light reading. There's one thing in there that I noticed when I was just simply reviewing it, and that is that the Air National Guard put out for public comment in multiple newspapers. This change affects a lot of northern, eastern section of the Lower Peninsula, and then a lot of the Thumb. And it affects Huron County substantially, but when I looked through their public notification, they failed to provide any public notice in Sanilac County whatsoever. So I'd like to ask the general those questions and at least have an opportunity to make sure that the voices of county residents are heard.
Well, this has been discussed for quite a few years already. I know social media had some pretty strong comments from those people along the shoreline about the possibility of dealing with that. And of course, they rejected the notion that that would be something they'd be willing to, deal with.
Right.
I mean, I remember hearing, we had meetings 3 years ago, discussing that, and about people complaining about that noise level and the desire to have it, the ceiling, not really ceiling, call it the deck, whatever, lowered.
What is the purpose of lowering the deck?
And that's the information I'm hoping to gain. If I was making an assumption, I would presume that they're, for their training exercises being lower to the grounds, maybe more realistic to wartime scenarios.
Radar, under the radar.
Yeah, so maybe that's the requirement. We all see military aircraft regularly operating in the airspace over the county, but there's clearly some concerns where there's a big difference between an A-10 flying through visible flight rules at low altitude, at low speed, or an F-16 doing high-speed maneuvers at 500 feet. I mean, that could affect civilian aircraft, things of that nature. And so in the meeting that we're going to have on January 3rd, we're going to have some commissioners that affects their districts, but I also have Don Johnston, who is the manager of the city airport, and he's bringing an individual from like the aeronautical community here in Sanilac County that knows a lot about these issues. And then we've also reached out to our sheriff's department through Josh Horst, who I believe is involved in the air patrol for this, related to what you guys would deal with. So we're trying to get the right people in the room to have a conversation and see what's going on. So that's all I had regarding that. So we will move on now to commissioner reports, and we will start with Commissioner Heberling.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to report first on Bridgehampton Township meeting that I attended last Thursday night. A couple things come out of that meeting. They wanted me to bring to the commissioners. First of all, is proposal A. That was passed back in the I think early 90s for our property tax assessments increases were held to follow either two factors. The one we have been following for years called capped the increase to around 1%. This year, the CPI is over. It's at and it's 11%. And the law allows the state to increase our taxes by half of that factor. The Bridgehampton Township would like me to bring to the commissioners today that the new tax coming up for this year will be over 5%. And they were asking if we could do something, put something on our website so people weren't surprised that it went from 1% to 5%.
Are they discussing like your assessments on?
Assessment, yes.
So I thought proposal A back, and I think you're correct, it was the early 90s, was related to school funding taxation issues.
They were just going by assessments, and their assessor was there, Tom Lumpo, from down by Brown City, and he's the one that brought it up, and it became quite a discussion for about a half hour.
Okay.
And they said if possible, we could put that on our website so people do understand proposal A and why the increase is going up this year.
So some back history and some information related to that as a
Yeah.
resource.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the second thing they asked me to address is our county parks, knowing that I'm on that county park board. It wasn't a complaint. They weren't negative about it. They were very positive about it. They said, hey, we know that the ARPA committee has put money into the parks, and also we the county people that vote and approve millage, why is it that county people don't get a break on the use of the parks? And so I told them I'd bring that back to the board. It's probably more of a question we should be asking our Parks Board, but they said they're not asking for $100 or for $50 or $60 or $30, but they said if they could get county residents, they said if we get a $10 break over someone out of Flint or Detroit or wherever, because we've already been good-hearted and we passed a millage and we're already paying, we should get some kind of something back for it, so we can bring that up at our Parks and Recreation meeting, I guess.
I can address that right now. Any parks anywhere in the state that get grant funding from the state, you cannot offer discounted rates to anybody.
Okay.
So
That answers
kind of kills your grants if you do.
However, can you offer opportunities for reservations? Starting with county residents first, because I don't really think it's a monetary issue for most people that can afford the rates. It's just getting the spaces available. They fill up so fast if they've been so popular.
Yeah, I think that'd be kind of touchy there with the state as well to offer an early reservation. You're kind of giving one particular group of people an advantage.
Yeah, the ones that are paying taxes
in a
for
park, in a park that has gotten state funding.
Yeah, I could see the state's point of view there, that they don't want to be funding and then having, people. Okay, I get where you're going with that.
And then last night I attended the Sandusky City Council meeting, and it was noted that there was a grant being sought for the bathroom, which they received or receiving money for the new bathroom at the Diamond Trail. There's another grant they put into for the city park here for sidewalks. Used to be Old Door Field, and then there's another grant to put a sidewalk in between the old Maple Valley, the health department, and the Diamond Trail. And lastly, Roger Williamson, one of the councilmen for the city council, has spent the last 10 years as a council member, and they congratulated him and honored him last night. And Tim Stone now is a new councilman, will be taking over for Roger Williamson. End of report.
Thank you, Gary. Good report. Bill?
A few things. Port Sanilac discussed the CEPA siren and what they might be able to do with that. They had a very successful holiday plan, and they're continuing to work on their master plan ordinance changes. They've been doing a really good job of revisiting their master plan. Sanilac Township discusses their bed and breakfast planning they're looking at, and also the VRBOs. They're discussing CEPA equipment, also their water operations. So they've been doing really good with taking over a lot of the water services there along the lake. Lexington Township had some positives about our wind solar training that was we made available to them through MSU extension and so forth. New internet provider for them. They're also working on a marijuana ordinance, and one of the big things down that way and even going up along Lakeshore is lake road access. So they have some concerns about all the county roads that go down to the lake and keeping that open for the residents to be able to have beach access. And then last night was Village of Lexington. They had some DDA discussion at the council level. The DDA expansion for their tax base has been increased, and they approved their 5-year rec plan, and they filled some vacancies on their council. Will Morris is actually a new council member there now. And that's all I have for local attendance.
Thank you for your report, Bill. I fielded multiple phone calls about a potential large-scale solar project in District 1. Some people are concerned about. I provided a 2022 recap update in the Minden Herald that'll go out next week. And then also in that update that I put in the paper, I put a notice related to the idea that industrial scale alternative energy is continuing to become a more and more hot button topic in the county. And that if people have concerns or questions related to those types of installations, they need to go to their township boards and have conversations early on before these things become out of control. So that's all I go.
John, would you speak, if you don't mind, again on the topic of discussion at our state legislature in regards to removing local control? Very important issue.
It is. It's an extremely important issue, and there seems to be a variety of opinions related to that. So the state has goals for green energy development, and those goals are set in percentages of total output in the state. Maybe it's 25% or 30% they want in alternative energy or green energy, which I prefer not to call it green energy. It's alternative energy. But increasingly, communities have seen the impacts of these types of developments. And not all residents that live in rural Michigan live there because they want to look at fields of solar panels and wind turbines. So it creates contention. There's been many townships and communities that have moved against having those types of establishments, which therefore causes less growth in alternative energy. So the state is going to continuously find itself in a bind between their goals for alternative energy and locals having control of citing those types of issues. So the logical conclusion from that is that the state will likely attempt to take away local control of green energy siting in order to eliminate the opposition at the local level. I mean, I don't think that's a fight that the legislator really wants to take on. You're going to have every county and township in the state screaming. Resolutions probably stacked this high on their desks, and we're completely prepared for that if it happens. And that, as Commissioner Wyatt asked me to have comments about this, Roger and I did attend another MAC 7th district meeting that was, again, not really well attended, but through some conversations I've had with some other commissioners in other counties, because remember, MAC 7th is Huron, Tuscola, Sanilac, Lapeer, and St. Clair. It appears as though there's some changeover on some of those boards. So maybe some of the commissioners that I've been trying to reach out to aren't going to be there next year. So we're going to try to work back on that MAC 7th and try to reinvigorate that in January and possibly February. Because again, I know everybody has a different opinion about alternative energy, but I'm fairly confident that we can get the thumb counties to unite in the concept that we all want control of those types of issues. We want to make those decisions at the local level. And I think that we're stronger united than we are separated. So I'm going to continue to work on that.
Yeah, I would agree.
Thank you, John.
And it's this, and back to the alternative energy, this is creating contention in communities. And this is something that I think that it's incumbent upon us to provide some level of leadership to try to assist these townships work through these issues without there having to be massive changeover on boards and a variety of other issues that come along with it. So that's all.
Lapeer had 6 to 7 new commissioners coming in.
Yeah. Big changeover. So again, I'm hopeful that we can get some participation in the MAC 7th and start to get some discussion started. If you read news articles related to alternative energy, it seems as though the media is the one pushing the concept of the state taking local control the strongest. In a recent Bridge magazine article, there was a guy, I forget what his name was, but he was with Farm Bureau, and he kind of blew off the notion that the state wouldn't even attempt to do it, which is an interesting opinion to come from Farm Bureau, because I believe they would be a big voice in that debate as well.
Well, it isn't that it's a non-issue. It's already an issue with the gravel projects, with soil removal from townships. They want to take away that ability for local control based on the Aggregate Council of Michigan that put out a false report of there being an aggregate shortage. It was funded by that particular group, which was discovered a year or so ago and published in a free press, but your average person doesn't take note of that. It's a hot topic out there in the Metamora area because they're litigating over that very subject. And the idea being that you guys move to a community and you want to take part in what the community is and what you expect to see in 10 years and leave for your children. And you have the state government coming and removing that from you. You no longer have that. If you're following any of this Liberty Wind Park, that's why everybody's mad. They feel they haven't had an opportunity to be a part of their landscape of the children's future. But it's not entirely true. They've had the opportunity, but there's been a failure on the part of most of the ordinary citizens to show up at their local township meetings, their city or village boards and the like, and participate. So I think that's what you get. And sure, maybe they're putting on something. Oh, it's no big deal. Don't worry about it. Go on back doing what you're doing.
Right. So that's something I imagine we'll have more discussion about next year. I don't feel that issue is going to be resolved or go away anytime soon. So that's the end of my commissioner report. Roger?
Yeah, last Tuesday, I attended a Marlott Township Council meeting township meeting, excuse me. And probably one of their shortest meetings I've attended in the last 2 years. They do have some interest from a company in building a new hangar at the airport. There hasn't been anything built out there in several years, so they actually may be flying a jet out of that hangar. So that's kind of exciting for the airport. Next Wednesday, I'll be attending my last Elk Township meeting. This past Thursday, I went to Evergreen Township just to introduce myself. I'll be their new commissioner up there. And I'll be going to my final Peck Village Council meeting tomorrow night. And that's it.
Thank you, Roger. Joel?
Well, I don't know if you guys followed last Monday, what happened in the courthouse in regards to Liberty Wind Park. They had a recall petition that was presented to the what do you call that, Elections Commission? And I think the Elections Commission is comprised of the Sanilac County Treasurer, Clerk, and Judge Ross. And they presented the petition language, and it was rejected on the notion that there were some unclear items, which seems to make good sense considering that is the language presented on the ballot itself, right?
It is not on the ballot,
That is not
only on the petition as
on the
it's
petition.
presented for signatures.
Okay. Well, who determines the ballot language?
There isn't.
There isn't.
It's just the name, it's the office.
Oh, because you're
that's
running
up and then
against.
the names.
I
Yes.
found it. Okay. But that gives them the opportunity to represent it with clarifications that were described as being needed and move forward from there. The point being, though, there was a lot of folks that took interest in it, and the courtroom was packed. And that's good to see, right? People involved.
It is. Just hopefully we can get people involved before it ends up in a recall petition.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Wyatt. Appreciate everyone's reports. At this time, we'll move into our administrator report. Nathan?
Thank you. So I've got a plan. I reached out to a couple insurance consulting companies, gonna get some other ideas into this. There's just this cloud hanging over us of insurance costs that continue to rise. It's a burden for employees, something that's been talked about a lot. So I felt compelled to reach out to a couple other insurance consulting companies to have them take a look at what we have here. Maybe give us some ideas on if they would do anything differently if we were to move to them for consulting services. So we've got a couple meetings set up, one tomorrow and one Thursday. So we're gonna see. I've already had some preliminary discussions with them, and they've had some interesting, I guess, discussions on ways that they think maybe the county could look to save a little bit, but we'll see what time. I had a meeting yesterday. It was a second one, a company that would provide grant assistance to the county. So what they would do is they have folks who, I guess, screen for grants, look at opportunities, summarize them, and then they send them out to you and say, here's what we got. So people don't have to, because I told them I think one of the obstacles we have is sometimes when people go in to look at grants, you have these very lengthy synopsis of like what the grant is and how to apply. And I think for some that are very busy, they don't want to take the time to dive into this 30-page report on this grant. So they said they kind of spoon feed it to you and you see, and they can also, the nice part is they could email you specific grant opportunities. Like for instance, if we say, well, we need a grant for the recycling center, they could send us grants that they feel would, apply to the recycling center or health department or whatever we're looking for, public safety. So there's some positives. We haven't got down to the nitty gritty of what the cost would be for something like that. That's kind of going to determine some things, but they wanted to, I guess, meet and see any areas where maybe we're lacking in the grant department. And I told them really it comes down to just time. I said, we've got department heads who do it sometimes when they have time. We don't have a designated person. So it becomes difficult. I know Nate Smith does a good job over at the sheriff's department. He's done a couple of them recently. And appreciate his efforts on those, but I know it's just hard sometimes when you get busy with other things, so. We had our courthouse security meeting last week. Everybody seems to be on the same page with the continued efforts we're looking at and how to continue to keep the building safe, keep employees safe, keep those that come into the building safe. We've had more discussions in regards to the public entrance and what that could look like over time, and we're continuing to explore options there. We had an MCF medical care facility meeting yesterday. Things went very well. I think the facility is continuing to move in a very positive direction under the new administrator, Carrie Regentine. She's got a lot of experience in the field. She's identifying some ways that they can save some money, some ways that maybe they can improve the facility. And I think as John and Roger know, because they sit closely through that group, I think things are really moving in a positive direction there. And then lastly, I just wanted to thank Commissioner Wyatt for everything. I know this is his last meeting. We haven't got an opportunity to work together for too long, but it's been a positive experience. I'd like to thank you for everything you've done to the county, everything you've brought to the board. I appreciate that you're not afraid to ask difficult questions when they need to be asked. You like accountability and transparency, and I think that's created some positive changes for the county, and it's brought on some things that sometimes when people are called to the carpet or questioned, sometimes it's difficult, but sometimes questions need to be asked. So I think that's been a positive thing, and I just hope that you continue to stay involved in local government if you feel compelled to. So
Thank you, Nathan. That was very kind of you.
that's all.
Any questions for Nathan? Nathan, I'm pleased to hear you exploring grant opportunities for the county. It's something that's certainly been on my mind. I think our sheriff's department's success with grants and also our park system, having a grant writer and the success we've seen with that, it'd be really nice to see some more opportunities, because that's really our struggle in government, is creating revenue. And that might be a way for us to bring in some money to create some new opportunities. So
Yeah.
Good report. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we're going to move on to public comment pertaining to today's agenda. Are there any public comments pertaining to the agenda today? Seeing none, we're going to move into interviews. We have a variety of boards that we'll be interviewing for. The first one will be the Central Dispatch Advisory Board. Is Cheryl Cribbins here? Seeing not, we have Michael Radford. Michael, you're here. If you'd like to come up and tell us a little bit more about yourself. I know this isn't your first time being up here doing this.
We just, get just as nervous, it doesn't matter. My name is Michael Radford. Most friends and people call me Dwayne, it's my middle name. I'm retired from construction, over 30 years of licensed builder. Been in construction for almost 40. So I ran my own small business. Took a class in Robert's Rules of parliamentary procedure, so I can learn how to be a member of a board, possibly chair a board someday, or co-chair or whatever. So I'm trying to get a background in that. This is really interesting since I got into politics here a couple of years ago. I'm really excited about continuing it. And when I started our local government. So, I am looking at the Central Dispatch Advisory Board, and I think with my background and experience and all kinds of decision making through all these years, as a small business owner, I think I could be a good candidate for that. Okay. I appreciate your time and thank you for having me to interview again.
Does anybody have any questions for Michael?
Have you ever had the opportunity to call Central Dispatch for any particular reason?
Years ago.
Yeah.
In fact, we've had, issues with, I live out in Melbourne area and Speaker Township. We've had issues with trespassers and whatnot. So yeah, we've used the Central Dispatch. A lot of times I was from the south end of the county there, and going through St. Clair County, and then they got to dispatch us back through or whatever. But yeah, I have, and we've actually had the sheriff's office, a couple officers come pounding on our door at 2:00 in the morning because our phone wire in the ice was tapping out 911. Back to the frontier. This was 13 years. We just moved into our house. So,
All right.
yeah, so it was quite interesting night. Yeah. So their response was awesome, by the way.
Well, awesome.
So yeah, I have used it.
Very good. Any further questions for Michael? Seeing none, we appreciate you being here today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, at this time, we're going to move on to interviews for the Drug Task Force. We have Scott Bickle. Scott here today. Seeing not, Linda Dale Eugster. Is Linda here today?
She's not gonna make it. She said.
Okay. And I see John Maxey is listed here as unavailable as well. I believe we will not have an interview for that particular board. This will take us on to the Land Bank Authority Board. Is Margaret Jensen here today? See none. Kim Thompson. Kim, I see you there in the back. Come on up. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, you know, I'm a lifelong Sanilac County resident,
My neighbor.
your neighbor. I taught at Deckerville School for 15 years, retired out of there, so I'm local. I've been on your land board for the last year. And I feel like it's a good fit for me.
Okay. Well, we appreciate your service. Does anybody have any questions for Kim? Seeing none, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Moving on to the Save Partnership Millage Board, Jamie Dawes. No, she is not available today. The Veteran Millage Governing Board, we have Linda Dale Eugster, who we know is not here. Is Jeffrey Lyle here today? Jeffrey, would you like to come up and tell us a little bit about yourself, please? Welcome. We appreciate you being here.
My name is Jeff Lyle. I live just outside of Port Sanilac in Mr. Chapakalis district. I've served a term. I've already been on this board, the village board. I served a term on the Veterans Affairs Committee. I've served on the Sanilac Township Board for 12 years, on the Sanilac County Planning Commission for 20 years. I'm president of the Port Sanilac Cemetery Association, and held one portion or another in my DFW for 30 years. A lot of experience going to meetings.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we appreciate your service.
well, I'd be honored to serve again. Well, thank you. Questions?
Any questions for Joe? Seeing none, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we're going to move into actually making appointments. Before we do that, I just want to tell everybody in the room, we appreciate everyone who applies to these positions. If somebody gets passed over this particular time, I encourage you to continue to apply. There are always opportunities. We're always looking for people to fill them. So at this time, we're going to move into our Airport Zoning Board of Appeals. Need a motion to appoint Steve Scribner to a partial 3-year term as an alternate on that board.
So moved.
Support. I have a motion from Commissioner Ballard, support from Commissioner Heberlein. Is there discussion?
Who left?
So nobody did. So when we had a meeting here recently, I sat and counted the people at the table and came to the conclusion that there were 6 people on that board. A 6-person board doesn't exactly work out real well. So we went back and we reviewed the bylaws. It's supposed to be a 5-member board. So Nathan sent out an email to everybody in the Airport Zoning Board of Appeals identifying the issue. We also found that you can have alternates for that position. So no one had to technically leave the board, but one person needed to move to an alternate position. And so Nathan sent an email out. Steve was the first and I think only person that replied back with interest in being appointed as an alternate position. So that's how we landed here today with this.
So we now have a 5-member board once again.
Correct. Yeah. And an alternate that could, so the point of an alternate on a ZBA would be is if a full-fledged member of the board had a declared conflict of interest on a particular topic and couldn't participate, the alternate would come in and participate in that person's place. Or if there was an absence and someone was unable to attend, the alternate could come in and partake in that meeting.
So Mr. Scribner is going to be an alternate then?
Correct. Yep. So he's still a member of the board. He's just an alternate. He'd be called on as needed, essentially.
Well, maybe you'll keep in mind whether that's useful to have an alternate, because the planning commission failed to have quorum on multiple occasions. Perhaps had they had an alternate, they could have met.
Typically alternate positions are held in ZBA situations.
Right?
I've never read language in the statute that would indicate the possibility of an alternate on a planning commission. So, but I can look into that. And further, if the board had more interest, I believe the bylaws for the Airport Zoning Board of Appeals indicates up to 2 to maybe 3 alternates.
It's addressed in their bylaws.
Yeah, so there is the possibility of more alternate positions. But I would say at this point, at least we've got, it's a little house cleaning, getting things set up the way they should be. So
So, well done identifying that.
I'm not so sure I was the one. I'll give Nathan the credit for
Hey,
identifying.
good job, Nathan.
Joint effort.
Yeah, team. Is there any further discussion related to the appointment of Steve Scribner to a partial 3-year term as an alternate on the Airport Zoning Board of Appeals? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Now it's time to appoint one person to the Board of Canvassers. There's only one person that applied for this position, so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Heberlin, support from Commissioner Sarkella to appoint Lori Decker to the Board of Canvassers. Is there discussion related?
Is this a political,
Yeah.
either Republican or Democrat?
It is.
Democrat. Yeah,
Okay.
so we had Carol Partlow, she resigned at the end of the election year. And
She's filling, Lori's gonna fill that term, correct?
Lori came recommended from the
The
Democrat.
Democratic side. Okay, thank you.
You have a certain number of each political affiliation that are represented,
2 and 2.
2 and 2. And then is there a
Lori is here, but I'm sorry.
is there like a non-party affiliated? It's simply a party affiliation. Okay.
It has to be from the 2 major political parties,
Okay.
Democrat and Republican.
Okay. Well, thank you for the back history on that, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Seeing no further discussion related to the appointment of Lori Decker to the Board of Canvassers, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to an appointment to Central Dispatch Advisory Board, we have 2 names to enter into nomination. I will entertain a motion to enter Cheryl Cribbins and Michael Radford into nomination.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion from Commissioner Heberlin, support from Commissioner Wyatt. Is there discussion? Hearing none, we'll use our ballots to vote. Thank you.
Okay, 2 for Cheryl Radford Cheryl Cribbins, and 3 for Michael Radford.
Okay, congratulations, Michael. You are appointed to the Central Dispatch Advisory Board. This time we'll move on to Drug Task Force. We have 3 people for 1 position, so I'll entertain a motion to enter Scott Bickle, Linda Dale Euster, and John Maxey in the nomination.
So move.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella. Is there support? We have support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there discussion?
Point of issue, don't we typically nominate and we close nominations and then we vote?
So you want to have an entertained motion to enter names into nomination and then close nomination?
That's what we've usually done in the past. And I think that might be the proper way to do it. You first open up a motion to nominate 3 individuals in this case, then you close nominations and then you have the vote.
You close nominations with a vote to close nominations or just close?
You're closing nominations. So in other words, that's the end of the people being able to be nominated, and then you have the vote afterwards. That's how we've pretty much done it.
So it's simply a procedure of suggesting that we're closing nominations?
Yeah, I can't recall if it's like.
Because
That
it would seem cumbersome to vote through that and then have a vote after.
Correct. So you go through all of them, you have open nominations for the various positions and you close them and then you go back for the votes.
Okay.
At least that's what I recall us doing that multiple times before. And I can hear, what's his name? Dan Dean's, voice ringing. I don't know if that's the proper way or not. Honestly, I haven't looked into it.
Okay.
It ends up being the same, but
I haven't seen anything in any of the past
Yeah.
minutes to show that,
Yeah,
but I'm not, I mean. you were
I
there.
know for sure.
I think it's more of just a verbal cue
Yeah,
of a closing of nominations than an official action. But if
I'm not making a suggestion we change anything. I just wanted to have that discussion because I know for sure that we've done it that way where we open nominations, talk about the people who's going to do it, then you close nominations and then you carry on the vote.
Okay. All right, well, I'm thoroughly, you got me thoroughly confused.
Mr. Radford,
Thank you.
as a recent class participant.
Yeah.
Perhaps you could do that.
I think you're correct.
Okay.
I remember correctly. You are correct.
So we have, we have a motion to enter Scott, Linda and John into nomination. Roger, you supported that,
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
I called for discussion. Is there any further discussion related to this? Hearing none, we'll close nomination. And now we can vote. Is that a process that's closer to what you're identifying?
Yeah, I don't think there has to be a motion per se.
Because I can't call for a motion and a vote to close.
The way we've entered into it is a little bit cumbersome now that I brought that up in the manner in which we're carrying out. I believe there's a different process in which this whole voting is done, particularly for multiple appointments. So I would say let's just carry it forward the way you've already entered into it and figure it out in the future.
Okay,
You all figure it out in the future.
we'll figure
We'll
it out.
figure it out after John's, but you're always gone.
Go back to doing it the way we were doing it.
Right. He's gone. Let's.
Carry on.
You, are you going to that or you want me to notate that?
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I guess. You know, it's interesting you say that because one time I did sign that and Denise was like, you have to print your name. I'm like,
Oh,
oh, well, okay.
okay, one for Scott Bickle, one for Dale Euster, and 3 for John Maxey.
Okay. John Maxey is appointed to the Drug Task Force for a 2-year term. Moving on to the Land Bank Authority Board, we have 2 positions available with 2 people, so I'll entertain a motion to appoint Margaret Jensen for a 3-year term. I'm going to do them individually.
Okay, support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Heberlein, support from Commissioner Ballard to appoint Margaret Jensen to a 3-year term to the Land Bank Authority. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Margaret is appointed. At this time, we'll entertain a motion to appoint Kim Thompson to a 3-year term to the Land Bank Authority Board.
So moved.
Support. We have a motion from Commissioner Ballard, support from Commissioner Sarcella. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Kim, congratulations, you're reappointed. At this time, we're going to move on to the Safe Partnership Millage Board. We have 1 person going for 1 seat. That's Jamie Dawes. I'll entertain a motion to appoint.
So moved.
We have a motion from Commissioner Ballard, support from Commissioner Wyatt. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Jamie is appointed. At this time, we have a Veteran Millage Governing Board. We have 2 positions available with 2 people applying. I'll entertain a motion to appoint Linda Dale Euster.
So move.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Wyatt. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Linda is appointed. And then I will entertain a motion to appoint Jeffrey Lyle to a 1-year term to the Veteran Millage Governing Board.
So moved. Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Heberlein, support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We have no commissioner chair appointments, so we will move into general resolutions. We have a resolution today honoring Under Sheriff and Tort. Commissioner Heberlein will read that.
Under Sheriff. Before I read this, I think both him and I kept it under wraps because of the position we hold in the county, but my wife and Lori have been friends since high school. Lori stood up in our wedding, and we've been friends for, let's forget how many years. Probably close to 50, but been a great friendship, and we're so proud of what you've done for our community and work for the sheriff. You were in Deckerville?
Well, today at lunch, I made a little list. I worked for 5 sheriffs, 7 under sheriffs, and 4 chiefs of police.
Wow,
So,
it's quite a history.
Yeah.
And you've served as well,
thank you.
and you've been a good friend to our community.
Thank you.
So if I may, I'd like to read this, and this is a resolution of the Sanilac County Board of Commissioners and the proclamation of the Sanilac County Sheriff honoring Under Sheriff Timothy E. Thorpe, Edward, right? Yep. Timothy E. Thorpe will be retired from the position of Under Sheriff of the Sanilac County Sheriff's Office after serving the distinguished appointment for a period of 2 years on December 31st, 2020. And whereas Timothy E. Thorpe began his law enforcement career while serving in the United States Air Force, a passion which carried into the civil world, where he was hired as a correction deputy in 1977. And whereas Tim E. Thorpe, throughout his 45-year in law enforcement, has worked at various positions to include road patrol, deputy, sergeant, lieutenant jail administrator, Deckerville chief of police, and now under sheriff. Now therefore it be resolved that this Sanilac County Board of Commissioners, State of Michigan, recognizes and congratulates Timothy E. Thorpe upon his retirement as under sheriff on December 31st, 2020, and for his dedicated service to the community and to the Sanilac County. Thank you, Timothy.
I don't think we have a formal copy, Gary. I didn't have one.
Let's, so this is not all full.
Give me one.
We'll do it like that. Sure, yeah, yeah.
There's not. It was on like a yellow sheet.
So before Jim sets down, there's one more story. It's a good story. So last year, the year before, we've been down to Henry Ford Museum quite a few times. And the last time we went down, the president's limousine was there from back in probably the 60s and 70s. So I thought that was neat. And so I sent Tim a picture of it while we're still there by text. And he responded, he said, I was in that car. You want to tell the story?
Well, I was active duty Air Force in the security police, and President Ford and Henry Kissinger went to Russia, or the Soviet Union back then. And they came through the base I was at, and they were going to be there for a couple of days. So they took the presidential limousine off and the CIA or the Secret Service car off the military airplane. We put it in a hangar, and we had to protect it. And then there was Secret Service there watching us. So there was a couple layers of security on them. Well, they needed to fill the car with gas, and on the base, they only had unleaded gas. That big old pig of a Cadillac took regular gas. So we had to leave the base. So they put me in the front seat, and we left the base in the presidential car. Flags weren't waving or anything. But the one thing that I did notice, President Ford liked country western music because there was an old 8-track player mounted up underneath the dash, and there was a bunch of tapes on the front seat. So that's my story.
Okay, very good. We have a resolution from Commissioner Heberlein honoring Tim Thorpe as their support. Support. We have support from Commissioner Ballard. Leslie, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Sarchello,
Yes.
Commissioner Wyatt,
Yes.
Commissioner Heberlein.
Yes.
Commissioner Ballard,
Yes.
Chairman Black.
Yes. Congratulations, Tim. Thank you for your service to your nation and your community.
Enjoy retirement this time.
Right, right, Tim.
Okay, at this time, we will move on to committee reports, and we will start with Commissioner Wyatt.
I have no committee reports.
Okay.
Let's see, where do I start? Last Monday, had a DTF meeting, had a lot to report on there. Have a community mental health meeting tonight at 5, this afternoon at 5. On the 9th, I had a Michigan Works meeting. I serve on the governing board for that. That was a kind of a brief meeting. We lost our chairman, Brian Nolden. He was a commissioner in Genesee County, passed away last week.
Fortunate.
Yep. He was missed at that meeting. He had a thing for conducting quick meetings. He was a busy man, so we got through business fast and
So he
got
got
it
well
taken
liked by
care
the
of.
board.
Yes, he was very well. He's going to do this. Some news from our parks, Evergreen Park, we got word Friday, official word finally, that our grant application for Evergreen Park was successful. We'll be getting $300,000 of a total approximate $700,000 project for development up there. Going to have a ADA accessible kayak launch, putt-putt golf course, quite a bit of playground equipment, a couple of picnic pavilions, and it's really gonna. That was kind of my pet project that I came up with several years ago. This has probably been the longest we've worked on a project thanks to COVID. But there isn't really anything in this whole project that pertains strictly to camping. It's there for everybody to use, so that's going to be a great addition. And I believe that's about it.
Okay, thank you, Roger.
Yep, thank you.
So I have the 2023 tentative committee assignments completed and sent out to everybody. The Board of Health met this morning, pretty boilerplate stuff for the Board of Health this morning. We also had an MCF team meeting this morning that, as Nathan indicated during his administrator report, by all signs, things are on a positive swing for sure at our medical care facility. Definitely have the right people in the right places. Also, the Planning Commission recently provided a webinar from the University of Michigan, Dr. Sarah Mills, and this goes back to alternative energy is a real large topic in the county. So the Board of Commissioners and the County Planning Commission are doing what we can to try to bring information to people so they're more aware of the issue. And I also wrote an article for a local newspaper trying to get more participation for the master plan survey. And that's something I would say to everybody here today. If you haven't taken the master plan survey for the county, it takes 10 minutes. It's really great feedback for your county leaders to understand what people in the community do or do not want. So I'd encourage all of you to take that survey, talk to your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your neighbor, try to encourage other people to take it too. And another point, we spent about $35,000 of taxpayer money getting this master plan done. The most important aspect is knowing what the community wants. So we're doing what we can to get that community outreach. We just need to get more people to participate. I believe a link, Nathan, if I'm correct, is under the planning section of the county website. So if you go to the Sand Lake County website, you go to departments, you go to planning, there's a link there. And also that webinar provided from the University of Michigan, being a fairly experienced person in planning and zoning related to alternative energy, I would say it was very basic and just kind of broad concepts, but it is good information. And I think the one main takeaway that I took away from it is a concept that always seems to get pushed, is that your community doesn't have to do this if they don't feel that it's what fits. And that's a message that I think should be sent home to people, that they can take to their township boards and start having these conversations early on before things become contentious.
And that's a good point, because I've had a phone call and to interface with people face to face. And one of the things that come out is that why are we building small homes or small houses, miniature homes? We don't need that. And I said, well, that's why we need your input. And I tried to explain that small housing and large housing and different things that we've come up with already in some of these surveys is what people brought up. It don't necessarily mean that that's what we're going to do. It's just input from different people around the county. So again, really important.
Yeah, and that's a super valid point that Commissioner Heberling had. You know, if we get community feedback that everybody hates the idea of a mini home, well, that's feedback we then give the townships for the homes and not zone for mini homes or whatever other land use it may be. So it's incredible feedback, again, for your community leaders to understand what people do and don't want.
It is important, particularly in the long range sense, because You can't make ordinances that that conflict rather with the master plan. Anything that, and that's straight out of the Ordinance Enabling Act, that whatever it is you do or don't do has to be in accordance with the way the master plan is. And the master plan is a slow moving plan.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And
We
it's,
thought it was gonna do it in what, a year?
yeah, they take a while. And another major topic related to that is compliance. And that's something that I think a lot of us don't consider. But one thing I always try to work on when I work with, of course, we attempt to be compliant here at the Board of Commissioners. And as Commissioner Wyatt brought up earlier in our dialogue about how we were handling committee assignments, trying to make sure that we're following proper procedure. Other boards that I serve on in the county, it's something I'm always attempting to do is try to make sure that they understand the OMA and that they're following it. And compliance is important because non-compliance is a liability to the community. So if you have a township board or a planning commission that's not working in compliance with the OMA, it's essentially a liability waiting to happen for the constituents. There are townships in our county that have been litigated over the OMA, and there's one that is in my district. And now there's an assessment on the tax roll, and every person that lives in that township's got to pay over $250,000 because somebody didn't do their job correctly. So that's something that we should all be working on. And Commissioner Wyatt's comments related to the master plan is absolutely accurate. These townships have to have master plans, and the ordinances that they're adopting need to comply with the township master plan. If not, they are opening themselves to a potential liability. That completes my committee report. I'll let you go there, Bill.
Just to add to that, utilization of the master plan also assists communities when they're looking for grant dollars.
Yeah.
Having those in place is just huge for being able to follow protocol to obtain some money. Obviously, as what you did with the parks.
Same for parks.
Yeah.
Any municipality that has parks and wants to seek out grants, they need to have a 5-year plan in place.
Yeah, so to come in with and then, notify us, you got a $300,000 grant, that's huge.
And that's not just something you write up and put on a shelf. It's got to be approved by parks in particular as a DNR.
A few things, HDC had their finance meeting last week, auditor discussion with Yo and Yo. Region 7 found some COVID money for them. So the senior services that they had to decrease in the past, they now have funding to carry those through the end of the year. A couple things affecting them though right now is their delivery and congregate meals are up 70% in costs. Food's up 38%. So they're really working on trying to reduce that. But this money that they discovered will be able to help them. Huron County is having some discussion with them about their contract for the senior services. Not really sure what they're doing with that, but they're looking at accessibility and so forth in regards to that. It's a good thing that we look at our millages like we do, but also at the same time, we support the institutions that are providing those services, because this one's really throwing them for a loop. Apparently the contract Huron County wants them to sign in regards to their millage. Huron County's looking for complete access to all their financials and everything at any time they request them, which is something that's just an impossibility for them to provide. So there could be a time at some point in 2023 where they may opt out of the contract. MSU Extension Advisory, they're filling their positions and their program successes have increased, particularly post-COVID. They've had really good attendance. And Child Abuse Prevention Council met yesterday morning. Their audit is starting, and the Thumbs Up fundraiser that they did on Croswell picked up $4,800 for them for the baby pantry. They're also going to be instituting their Child Safety Matters program, which will be run through the schools. So that'll be something to assist all the youngsters with things they need to know about to provide safety for themselves. That's all I have.
Very good. Thank you, Bill. Gary?
Yes, we had our ARPA meeting this morning. We did not have one in November. We had one today, and a couple of discussions that came up during that meeting. 3 discussions actually is what we've accomplished and basically closed out giving ARPA money to different areas that we felt needed. And then second of all, we talked about, and I'm going to say propose, okay? So we don't get off the wrong track. We have thought some time now, probably a year and a half, about the dog kennel housing on the east end of Sandusky. Obviously, we've brought it up in our meeting before. The city would like that area back where the dog kennels are now. And we got a quote for a dog kennel here, 7-8 months ago. We discussed amongst ourselves. We wanted to see if that cost could come down a little bit. And so we're going to put a team on that and come back in February.
Yep.
to see what we can do with that. And of course, we gotta follow state statutory rules, how we build it, but we also want to work with the city and see if there's things we could minimize to get the cost down. That was one of them. And the other thing was we had a short discussion about the entryway down here where we come in. See what we can do with that and some ideas and some options that we can minimize the cost on that, but yet have a very robust entryway. Third thing is, I forgot what the third thing was, but we also got a planning meeting tonight, county planning meeting tonight on Dawson Street. And what was the third thing we talked about?
Well, we talked about the date on which the allocation actually has to be completed.
Yes.
For ARPA funds. Nathan's already got an answer on that. So it is December 31st of 2024.
It is, okay.
Is the allocation, and it's December 31st of 2026 for expenditure. So we got that figured out.
Well, I do have a good memory and you're short, right? So, yeah, that was the three things on top. Well, thank you.
Okay, very good. Is that all, Gary?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you everyone for your committee reports. I appreciate it. At this time, I see nothing under unfinished business, so we will move into new business. And we will start with FA 189-22, approval of 2022 current claims.
Santa Clara County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the payment of current claims for 2022 identified on the accounts payable report dated December 13th, 2022 for the general bank account in $155,484.84.
Support. I have a motion from Finance Chairman Sarkella, support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 190-22, budget adoptions, amendments, appropriations, and transfers.
Santa Clara County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the following amendments, transfers, and establishes the following account as listed.
Motion from Finance Chairman Sarkella. Is there support? Support from Commissioner Wyatt. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 191-22, approval of additional general fund bank account checks charged in November 2022.
Santa Clara County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the payment of additional general fund bank account checks charged to November 2022 as follows: $422,511.74 for ACH payments, $293,171.87 for checks, for a total of $715,683.61.
Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Heberlein. Is there discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 192-22, approval of transportation coordinators agreement.
Santa Clara County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the employment agreements for transportation coordinators between Santa Clara Department of Veterans Affairs and John Herman, John Polvilnis, John Mahar, John Brinker, and Robert Deere at $15 per hour effective January 1, 2023 through December 31st, 2023, and further authorizes the board chairman to sign the necessary agreements.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 193-22, approval of lease agreement, Veterans Affairs.
Santa Clara County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the following lease agreement and further authorizes the board chairman to sign.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Heberlein. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 194-22, approval of lease agreement, Central Dispatch.
Santa Clara County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the following lease agreement and further authorizes the board chairman to sign.
A motion from Commissioner Sarkella. Is there support? Support from Commissioner Wyatt. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 195-22, approval of lease agreement, Drug Task Force.
Santa Clara County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the following lease agreement and further authorizes the board chairman to sign.
Support. We have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 196-22, approval of lease agreement, Medical Control Authority.
Santa Clara County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the following lease agreement and further authorizes the board chairman to sign.
Support. Motion from Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Heberlein. Is there discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 197-22, authorization of classification, compensation, and job descriptions.
Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes classification and compensation recommendations resulting in a higher pay grade assignment followed by the next step, which provides an increase for the year effective January 1, 2023 for the following positions.
Support.
Motion from Commissioner Sarkellis, support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 198-22, award and authorized bid for snow removal.
Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby awards and authorizes Oswald's Long and Tree LLC the bid for the purpose of snow removal at the recycling center at a cost of $60 per occurrence effective January 1, 2023 to December 31, 2024, with funding from the recycling millage.
Support. Motion from Commissioner Sarkellis, support from Commissioner Heberlein. Is there discussion on the topic?
When we looked at the contract, Joanne was right there.
Mhm.
We had a discussion about being separate from the courthouse. Did you recall if there was an initiation on like the depth of snow? Yeah,
She did discuss that.
I think there is something in the contract,
Depths of snow.
it was just per occurrence, but there was.
in the contract itself, didn't it?
Yeah,
Number of instances.
yes, it did.
It was like the 2 inches of snow or less, they wouldn't plow, but then.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, we have a motion and support to award and authorize the bid for snow removal. Is there any further discussion related to FA 198-22? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 199-22, award and authorized bid for trash removal recycling center.
Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby awards and authorizes Waste Management the bid for the purpose of trash removal at the recycling center effective January 1, 2023, with funding from the recycling millage.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarkellis, support from Commissioner Heberlein. Is there discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 200-22, approval of representative payee public guardian services.
Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the letter of agreement between Sanilac County Community Mental Health Authority and Sanilac County Representative Payee Public Guardian effective October 1, 2022 to September 30th, 2023.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarkellis, support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 201-22, approval of extension services, MSU extension.
Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the 2023 agreement for extension services by Michigan State University, Sanilac County, effective January 1, 2023 to December 31, 2023 at a cost of $71,327.
Support. We have a motion from Commissioner Sarkellis, support from Commissioner Heberlein. Is there discussion on the topic?
Yes. Mr. Rasky, can you give us a brief synopsis of what that contract means?
Yeah, so that contract, we were able to reduce that contract a little bit this year because there was a position that the county had provided that was eliminated this year. So that allocation, if you will, covers their phone services and covers some of the positions that they have. They have some different educators and stuff through the CU extension department. And that money covers those things. And over the course of, I guess, the last 2 years now, that budget has been reduced a little bit. And I think, the standpoint that I guess the view has been, how does that look to the county with that budget being reduced? And if it's able to sustain, that's something that we'll have to explore over time. But that's kind of how we settled on that amount. So
We'll review that each year.
yep.
Thank you.
Very good. Is there any further discussion related to FA 201-22? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 202-22, authorization to repair generator, central dispatch.
Sand Lake County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes payment to Wolverine Power Systems in an amount not to exceed $6,447.57 for the purpose of repairing generator 95 Dawson Street with funding from the 9/11 millage for immediate approval.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there discussion? So this was approved for me 2 weeks ago due to the nature of the repair. Have the repairs been completed, Nathan?
Yes, I believe they have.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any further discussion related to FA 202-22? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to NFA 045-22, authorization to post and fill positions, Parks Commission.
Sand Lake County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes the Parks Commission post and fill the full-time caretaker maintenance positions at Evergreen and Forester Parks at a pay grade 3, step 1.
Support. Sorry.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Wyatt. Is there discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to NFA 046-22, ratification of the collective bargaining agreement, Police Officers Labor Council dispatch.
Sand Lake County Board of Commissioners hereby ratifies the collective bargaining agreement with POLC dispatch unit is offered and accepted, including a 2.25% wage increase for 2023, 2024, and a 2% for 2025. Further authorizes the board chairman to sign the collective bargaining agreement.
Support.
We have a motion from Finance Chairman Sarcella, support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to NFA 047-22, ratification of the collective bargaining agreement, Police Officers Labor Council Command.
Sand Lake County Board of Commissioners hereby ratifies the collective bargaining agreement with POLC. Command unit is offered and accepted, including a 2.25% wage increase for 2023, 2024, and a 2% for 2025. Further authorizes the board chairman to sign the collective bargaining agreement. Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Wyatt. Is there discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to NFA 048-22, ratification of the collective bargaining agreement, POLC corrections.
Sand Lake County Board of Commissioners hereby ratifies the collective bargaining agreement with POLC Corrections Unit as offered and accepted, including a 2.25% wage increase for 2023, 2024, and a 2% for 2025. Further authorizes the board chairman to sign the collective bargaining agreement. Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Heberlein. Is there discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to NFA 049-22, ratification of the collective bargaining agreement, POLC, POAM.
Sand Lake County Board of Commissioners hereby ratifies the collective bargaining agreement with POAM deputy unit as offered and accepted, including a 2.25% wage increase for 2023, 2024, and 2% for 2025. Further authorizes the board chairman to sign the collective bargaining agreement.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Wyatt. Is there discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to NFA 050-22, approval of project authorization for year 2023, section 5311, operating formula grants for rural areas programs.
Sand Lake County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the Sand Lake Transportation Project Authorization for FY 2023, section 5311, operating formula grants for rural areas programs, and further authorizes the board chairman to sign.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Wyatt. Is there discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to NFA 051-22, approval of safety and security services for community mental health.
Sand Lake County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the professional service agreement for safety and security services between Sand Lake County Community Mental Health Authority and the County of Sand Lake effective October 1, 2022 through September 30th, 2024. Further authorizes the board chairman sign the necessary agreement.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there discussion on this topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to NFA 052-22, approval of auditing services.
Sand Lake County Board of Commissioners hereby approves a 3-year agreement with Andrews Hooper Pavlik PLC AHP to provide the audit for 2022 at a cost not to exceed 47,000 for 2023 at a cost not to exceed 49,400 and for 2024 at a cost not to exceed 51,800 and further authorizes the board chairman to sign the necessary agreement. Support.
We have a motion from Finance Chairman Sarkalis, support from Commissioner Heberlin. Is there discussion on the topic?
Yes, Nathan, as that increase goes up, is that just for COLA?
Yeah, that was the trend. Every company that quoted it, there was the increase over time. So, that's what was done.
Any further discussion related to NFA 052-22? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. At this time, we'll open it up to general public comments. Are there any general public comments today?
I just have one. Got one to Dale, the name switch, Dale Linda.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's Dale Linda.
Okay. I will, I'll let Jody know and we'll make sure that it gets corrected. Thank you for bringing that up.
All right.
Is there any further public comments today? Okay, seeing none. I've got a few public comments. I just want to recap. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Put myself on a clock. 2022 was a very busy year for the Board of Commissioners in the county. As everybody came out of the pandemic, things started to ramp back up. Things got busy. There was a lot of things that were on the back burner. So I just wanted to kind of identify some of the main topics that the board achieved this year. So the first one being the allocation of most of the $8 million of ARPA funding. We developed a process that involved our county departments, involved people that work in this county to have some input in that. I think that was a good process and we identified some areas that we can make some improvements. We also improved the overall fiscal health of the county by paying off a jail bond that saved the taxpayers $400,000 of interest. And it also brought about $90,000 back into county coffers on an annual basis to assist us to operate the county. The other thing that we went through this year is we lost our county administrator. So we hired a new county administrator with solid qualifications to provide day-to-day leadership in county government. Nathan, I believe you've been filling that role quite well. So thank you for your time. As we've discussed previous in the meeting, the Board of Commissioners identified issues in the medical care facility and developed a team to provide assistance and guidance to implement change and improvements to ensure the long-term viability of the facility. Our meeting this morning indicates that we made some good choices in that case and that we are seeing positive movement and things improving in our medical care facility. We had some major improvements using state, federal, and local funding for the Sanilac County Park System with historic park usage. We also completed 3-year contracts for all 8 of the county employee unions. And we also did that during an unprecedented labor shortage, which certainly complicated the process. But those contracts were ratified with the concept of improving recruitment and retention in the county, which the hope will reduce turnover, which will reduce costs related to training and make sure that county services are smooth. We also, this is something that the Board of Commissioners always works to do, is develop open and positive working relationships with other elected officials and department heads so that we can have good communication between what we do and what they do. We also have a good working relationship with our separate but equal judicial branch of government. And I'd like to thank Judge Ross and Judge Rathel for assisting us with that. I'd like to acknowledge the administration staff. Again, Nathan is new. He's doing a good job. We have a great staff and administration, and I'm sure all you commissioners know it'd be real tough to do our jobs without Jody, right? So she's always there when we need her. I'd like to acknowledge all staff in the county because it's not what we do here. We're simply part of the COG. It's everybody that works in this county that provides quality services to residents at an affordable cost. Also, I'd like to acknowledge the other elected officials that we work with. There's many of them. A lot of those elected officials, say our treasurer or our clerk or the sheriff or whoever it may be, they don't just fill that role. They serve on a variety of boards and committees across this county to provide leadership and guidance so that we can improve things for county residents. And that takes me into acknowledging the Board of Commissioners and this group. This is the last meeting of 5 Board of Commissioners. Next year it moves to 7. I'd just like to thank all of you for your service and your time. I felt we worked together well as a board. We definitely worked through a very contentious time with the COVID pandemic. And I think we set goals. And at this group, we didn't throw anything under the rug. When we saw an issue, we dug it up and we dealt with it. And I think we met things head on. And lastly, I would like to thank Commissioner Wyatt for your service to the community. Commissioner Wyatt, we all take an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of Michigan when we earn these positions of being elected officials. I have never seen somebody in local government take that oath as seriously as I thought you took it. You were always advocating on behalf of your constituents when it came in relation to those issues. And I agree completely with everything that Administrator Roski had to say during his administrator's report. So thank you very much for your service. It was a pleasure serving with you.
As with you all as well. Thank you.
So with that, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Anybody have anything else they'd like to say?
I just want to, a couple of things I want to add on parks. If you get out to Forester or Lexington Park this next year, they're going to look a little different along the beach at Forester. We just completed the final phase of our erosion control, which are huge boulders that the road commission put in to help protect that shoreline there. And the way they did it was incredible. And it makes it much more appeasing to look at. And just, it's going to be there for a few years. At Lexington Park, we thank you to Representative Beeler for giving us that or getting us that $20,000 grant. We added an ADA bathroom addition to the bathhouse down there. That is complete. We'll be ready for use next year. And we also, they're still working on it. Should be done here shortly. A new stairway on the north side of the park going down to the beach. A lot nicer stairway. It's going to be 8 feet wide. And hopefully that'll be there for a good number of years. And also put an ADA accessible pathway on the south side of the park down to a new boardwalk and viewing platform with a pavilion roof for our handicap folks to use and get down there and enjoy a day viewing the beach. So that'll be up and ready for next season. So a lot of good things happening at the parks.
Very good. Thank you, Roger. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to say? Okay. With that, Commissioner Wyatt, would you make a motion to adjourn our meeting?
No, I'm not doing it. I'm voting against it. That's it.
Never change. You never change.
Move to check.
Can we have some more discussion on that?
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Wyatt, support from Commissioner Hebling to adjourn our meeting. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 2:21.